All right, English teacher friends, video series number 3 in the Art of Styling Sentences is coming your way. The ViewMaster edition, patterns 11 through 15. So just for context, I am using a book called The Art of Styling Sentences, 20 Patterns for Success, the 3rd edition. And the book makes the assertion that there's 20 different ways to pattern a sentence. And it kind of builds upon the work of Strunk and White in their seminal text, Write It Right, in which they have something called rule number 18. And their assertion is that there's 12 different sentence types. So there's 12 different sentence types, and of those types, you can pattern those types in 20 different patterns. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at pattern 11 through 15. I Bob Rossed a whole bunch of them, so your students can follow along if they would like, and just follow my lead. So without further ado, let's jump right in to patterns 11 through 15. If you like what you see, hit like. And please subscribe as my new YouTube channel is growing. So I've already alluded to Strunk and White's Write It Right. There is a link below for that text if you want it. It's really important that in order for students to know and be able to manipulate the 20 sentence patterns, that they have a firm grasp of grammar, punctuation, syntax. So start with Strunk and White and have your students know, in a relative way, the 12 sentence types before they begin patterning. I have a bunch of videos in my YouTube channel centering around Strunk and White's rules in Write It Right. So as I said, I Bob Rossed a whole bunch of these. You may want to Bob Ross a few yourself, just so that it's completely demystified for your students. So sit back, follow my lead, and I will run the show on this. And again, in terms of the reason why I'm doing these exercises, I think it's a fantastic way to teach voice rhythm and flow once students can become syntactical ninjas on this. So let's jump right on in and take a look at the first pattern, which happens to be number 11. And it's an interrupting modifier between subject and verb. So again, students need to know the parts of speech before before these make sense to them. So unpack that in Strunk and White so that when they come to number 11, they know what all the verbiage and terminology is. So let's just take a look at a few examples. Your life, like a small grain of sand passing through an hourglass, will go by quickly. So do you see, with a lot of these, it's parentheticals, it's appositives, over and over and over again. It's a new pattern, but kind of the same old tricks from the previous videos. Here's number 2. Feral cats, more fearful and anxious by nature, will most likely never develop a proclivity to cuddle with an owner. So it's just parenthetical statements. It's another way to talk about a parenthetical statement or an appositive. And you're just doing one qualification. I often tell my students that often when they speak, they're taking inventory of their audience. And they're like, my audience is not really, getting what I'm saying. So I better qualify it. And here's an example. Tropical drinks. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, super tasty and exotic are not ideal for hydration purposes. So just those little one-liner qualifications in the middle of a sentence is what you do for pattern 11. My wife's birthday gift, a loaded Audi Q5, arrived a day late. I'm going to assume that my audience does not know what my wife's birthday gift is, so I need to qualify and explain that, and I just drop that between the parenthetical. And the last one, the political candidate with an apparent sketchy backstory was nominated in spite of his questionable track record, right? So just straight up parentheticals in that. So if you are painting along with me, I usually do one pattern a day with my students. I teach on the block and just take 20 days to go over this. Go real slow. So stop, and students have a crack at it. Give it a whirl. Try 5 original sentences incorporating pattern number 11. So pattern 12 is an introductory or concluding participle. What in the world does that mean? Well, let's see. Exemplar number 1. Even though the setting did not warrant it, the little children could not help but titter during the priest's sermon. Number 2, let's see if we can follow a pattern here. Out of print for nearly 9 decades, Penguin purchased the rights to some of Thoreau's more obscure and early pieces of writing. Number 3, given that the lies were so blatant, the House of Congress could not help but boo during the president's address. And number 4, again, just see the pattern here. Overwhelmed by the stench of rank cheese, my brother could not help but find himself gagging into his handkerchief. And so it's kind of like a sentence inversion here. Perhaps at the skill level of the likes of Jimi Hendrix or Paul Simon, I just had to drop a $20 bill into the street musician's open guitar case. So one of the things that I like about, teaching these patterns is that students can make some deliberate syntactical choices. As we know, in terms of composition teachers, no matter how long we've done this, students often over-rely on and overuse independent clauses and short, simple declarative sentences. So to break that monotony, that dot, 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 dot rhythm, these patterns come in super handy. So that's an easy one. Pattern number 12, give it a whirl, students. And teacher, maybe you might need to model that a couple of more times or unpack it. Keep in mind that these slides that you're looking at are in the description of the video, so you can project them for your students in class and eliminate me if you want. And teacher, you can just unpack things a little further. So pattern 13, a single modifier, out of place for emphasis. This is an easy one. Furious. The girl threw punches in the air when her boyfriend of 6 months broke up with her via text message. So furious is out of place. Panicked, the residents exited their burning house as quickly as possible. Right? So it's just an emphasis, like where you place the syntactical arrangement. Slowly, the cat encroached upon the unsuspecting mouse. And then when I'm in a rush, I always get behind a slow driver, invariably. So you can put it at the end, the invariably at the end, right, instead of the beginning of the sentence. So all sorts of syntactical ninja choices just for voice, rhythm, flow, switch it up. You don't want sentence redundancies. You don't want a lot of parallel syntax going on in expository writing unless you have a purpose. No matter what, no matter the importance of the appointment, there's Tom, late, right? So again, you put it at the end. So as always, have students practice that a good old 5 times and put some at the beginning and put some at the end. Moving on to pattern number 14, a prepositional phrase before a subject and a verb. And again, this all harkens back to Strunk and White. By the time my students get to these lessons, we've gone through Strunk and White very diligently, very thoroughly, so they know the parts of speech and they're really good with their commas, their colons, their semicolons, their dashes, their ellipses. They got that relatively mastered come time of sentence patterns. So let's see a couple of examples to see if we can elucidate what that definition means. Despite having 3 master's degrees from an Ivy League school, the teacher nonetheless needs to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Let's take a look at number 2. Enunciating slowly and with clear intent, the mother stated her expectations to her mischievous child. Right? Just some inversions going on here. Behind the gun-singing cannon of the quarterback's arm, the Kangaroos won in the final seconds of the game. And number 4, up and down and back and forth, the meticulous man mowed straight lines. And the last one, right? Just pattern, pattern, pattern. Follow the pattern. Into his own immediate downfall, the man spoke and invariably put his foot in his mouth, as I just did as I stuttered. Known to do that, friends. Sorry about that. So pattern 14, 5 original sentences for that. Taking us to pattern 15, we're getting close to 20. Object or complement before subject or verb. Check it out. His kind of humor I very much appreciate. So it's kind of like talking backwards. This one is like a Jedi sort of language. No friend of the nation is a president who systematically lies to his people. All right. So this is good, especially like in the end of syllogisms. If you're using my heuristic, students tend to use this to really hammer home the conclusions in their syllogisms, and also in the conclusion paragraph of the essay. Pattern number 15 can be very useful. Next one, fit and trim, an ardent dessert eater will never be. Her choice of boyfriend is something I will never understand. And the last one, cantankerous and moody to the core, friends he will be without. All right, same old routine, same old policy. Try 5 for pattern 15. So my friends, teachers, students, if you're going along with me, go slow, give more examples if your students need it. Unpack the language via Strunk and White in some lessons. I got a ton of stuff in my YouTube channel that corresponds and complements the Strunk and White Write It Right book. So feel free to download those. That's all free, and have at it so that your students know what is going on here. So if you need to reach out to me for anything, teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. I also have a webpage, www.teachinghowtowrite.com. I am a lead teacher for the National Writing Project. I also present quite often with NCTE, and I'm a lead tutor for the Princeton Writing Center, and all that information is on my webpage. So give it a look, teachingHowToWrite.com. So that's it from here. Happy teaching, happy writing, and I'll see you for the final series, pattern 16 through 20 in the coming days. Take care.